Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's episode of It's Pretty Simple. I am your host, Nikita. Pretty Simple is a podcast about fitness, nutrition, fat loss, and everything to try and make your journey a little bit more simple. Today on the show with me, I have a very interesting guest who's going to teach me a lot and teach you a lot as well. I have nutritionist Zankriti with me, and today we are going to be talking about the Desi diet. So this is for all the Desi women out there. If you are struggling with home-cooked meals, you are struggling and you've stopped eating junk food, we're going to try and understand the Desi body and what we can do to get the results. Hi, Zankriti. So nice to have you here.
Same here. Thank you.
So I want to start with basically what I just said, the Desi diet. So let's come to the whole vegetarian aspect, right? A lot of Desis are vegetarian, in India especially. So I have clients who are vegetarian, and I used to struggle quite a bit because I'm not vegetarian myself, and my family is not, and I just don't know. And when it comes to losing fat, protein is a must, which is quite hard in a vegetarian diet. So my first question is it possible to get results through having a vegetarian diet?
Absolutely, yes. But you got to be really creative around it. So you have to understand that most of the Indian menus rotate around carbohydrates. In fact, India, we call it like a carb-rich country. Yeah, everything we eat is going to be solely or predominantly carbohydrates. But if you kind of be a little bit more creative around it, you can absolutely change the plate and kind of include protein, include good quality protein, be a little bit more smarter about your choices, and you can match your protein requirement with simple vegetarian options. But as I said, got to be really creative and intentional around it. Let me put it this way. There was a lot of research which talks about that basically India, or basically Indians, consume approximately 60 to 75% from carbohydrates.
Oh, wow.
So that's a very big amount. Ideally, the percentage should be anything between 45 to 55%. So to kind of really educate them, that's what the start point should be for Indians. And people do here obviously also include a lot of non-vegetarian sources, but their frequency could be as little as sometimes once in a week. Mera ye din hai, wo din hai. So basically, or it could be, let's say, once in a week, and also like, okay, I'm open to only, let's say, maybe just chicken or maybe just eggs. I'm not open to any other source of, non-vegetarian sources. So even the ones who are meat eaters, I would still say they are predominantly still vegetarian because their frequency is too little. Carbohydrates. Now, what's the problem with carbohydrates? There is really no problem with carbohydrates. The problem is that they do not really come along with adequate fiber and adequate protein, and that's what your meal plate become a little inadequate. And therefore, if you're looking at an outcome of, let's say, weight loss, fat loss, and if your meal plate is not going to be adequate with protein and fiber, the outcome is going to be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Actually, today we were at my Masi's place, and she needs to build strength in her legs, so she needs muscle. So I was like, have you been taking your protein shake? And she's like, no, not today. And I'm like, you need to eat meat every day. But she has, Monday and I think Thursday, where for religious reasons, it doesn't do it. And I was like, do you really think it's important? She thinks, yes, it's important. But, what's more important, your health or that? And she's actually, for health reasons, we have to build her muscle, but they're just so stuck on that. All right. So also from what I see as well with Indians, when it comes down to having the fiber aspect of it, okay, when you look at protein and fiber, you're looking at a lot of beans, dals, and things like that. But then nobody really includes that much salad. They'll have the sabzi, which is vegetable, but not ever have salad. That's something that's widely missing from the Indian diet.
Yes. Let me go there. So also I feel nowadays people also have just roti and sabzi. There's also going to be missing beans and dals, honestly speaking, on a lunch plate. Because most of them are working, they have a packed lunch, they want to make it really like lesser dabbas and stuff like that. Now, and moreover, they would not have, so imagine, let's say a plate looks like 3 rotis, thoda sa sabzi, and maybe some chutney on the side, or maybe some dal on the side, and that's about it. Absolutely inadequate. Versus, imagine I tell them that, okay, listen, and also if they include salad, it could be like adha kakdi, adha gajar. I tell them don't eat it. Don't waste your time on also doing an adha part of it. So either have like a big bowl of salad or don't eat it. It's as simple as that. Because fiber better have a volume to it to make all the impact.
It's pointless.
It's pointless. So coming back, An Indian meal, usually, yes, too many rotis or any kind of other grain. It could be the rice as well. And very little sabzi, very little dal. So the proportion is completely, can be changed. So what I'll tell is what I tell my patients usually. So imagine they come to me and they're like, okay, listen, abhi mein lunch mein I'm having my 3 rotis and I'm having my sabzi and I'm not going to change. I like it. I want the same kind of meal. I was like, let's just be a little bit more fun here, meaning, how about you reduce your roti from 3 to 2, increase your sabzi from, let's say, adha katori to 1 katori, and how about you probably just get a buttermilk alongside. Simple changes, but hopefully if I just did that, I change my macronutrients a little bit, but that's a good start point. Yeah. Also, you have to understand, I think with Indians, and especially my clients, I always like to make changes a little slow for them. So they also enjoy their predominant Indian khana. At the same time, they're making changes so that we are looking at progress slowly. Yep. If I tell them, okay, listen, now let's move to 3 rotis to 1 roti, let's include bars, let's include sabzi, they're going to be lost. Versus what I just did was just a little bit of, the proportion change and adding a little bit of that first class protein in the form of that buttermilk. Now coming back to the first class protein, dals and beans, etc. Yes, they are protein for vegetarians, but they're also a very good source of carbohydrates. To explain this better, a katori of mung and a katori of rice, same quantity. Yeah. So rice will be, let's say, approximately that katori is going to be 21 grams of carbohydrates. The same katori of mung, same amount as rice, is going to be approximately 15 to 17 grams of carbohydrates. Yeah. But the rice will be hardly 1.5 grams of protein, and that mung will be 7 grams of protein. So what I'm saying,
it's also higher in calories.
It's higher in
or equal.
Equalish. So the idea is that, even if you're doing your beans and your dals, you're also getting in your carbohydrates in bulk. So and also these dals and the pulses, they're brilliant, but they are not a complete protein.
Yeah, they don't have all the amino
They don't
acids.
have, required by the body for it to be efficiently absorbed.
Yeah, this is the thing I always have. Everyone says protein, and I say, well, we have complete aminos and we have incomplete. Your vegetarian diet is going to be incomplete. So you're technically not getting everything that you require to actually build the kind of muscle you want to build.
Absolutely. But again, if you just combine 2 protein sources smartly, like example, adding a complete protein to an incomplete protein, like adding some dahi to your plate along with your dal, you made a very significant change in your entire class of protein. So, you can have a few combinations like that to make the plate much. That's why they say that rice and dal as a combination goes a little closer towards a complete protein source versus just rice, or let's say, again, a few examples. Imagine I'm just having a pulao, but I'm having a pulao with, let's say, sprouts in it. I made it better. I'm having just a pulao, but I'm having pulao with some dahi raita with it. I made it better. So there are a few combinations you can play and make your plate a little bit more richer and protein and fiber rich.
And usually what I do myself, I'm not on an Indian diet, but like to make my plates better as well, like onto all my salads, I throw in cottage cheese. Through my eggs in the morning, I throw in cottage cheese. Absolutely. I'm just adding that more protein, so I don't have to actually think about getting an insane amount of chicken or an insane amount of meat, where I can just keep adding that little bits here and there. It makes a big difference for sure. So what are the most common patterns that you see that slow down results with the Indian body or the Indian diet, or when it comes to, even if somebody is eating healthy?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to understand there's a critical metabolic difference between Indian population and the Western population. So you have to kind of really accept that fact.
It is genetics.
It is genetics.
As much as, people like to blame genetics for a lot of things, but this is genetics.
It is absolutely genetics. I mean, there are so many researchers which state that Indians, might have the same BMI, but they will have extra visceral fat as compared to the Westerners.
We can see that on the streets. Everyone's got a big belly, especially the men.
Yeah, that's right. So they are prone to kind of store the fat around the belly, which is the visceral fat, the more dangerous one. So there is a genetic predisposition for sure as compared to any other Westerners.
And this is because of the famine in our ancestry.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And that's why we call it, we have a very nice term to it. It's called, so basically thin outside, fat inside phenotype.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very common in the Indians, especially the South Asians actually. So what we are saying is that even if you eat the same amount of food, the same calories of food, Indian population is going to be reacting to it differently in the form of glucose response. So they are the ones who are going to be like responding more, let's say hyper, where the food is concerned. So they're going to be like, oh, glucose, oh, let me just quickly store it. So they have that mechanism in them a little inbuilt. And also top on it, we are a carb-rich country, so we're eating adequate carbohydrates, maybe more, lack of fiber, lack of protein, worsens the entire system.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I did read that somewhere that we do store fat there because of, basically we were a poor country and we needed to, we didn't have food.
Yeah, so body was trying to fix you.
Yeah.
So the body and the mind were trying to fix you. It's kind of obviously coming along. Yeah. So yeah, the sense of lack was always there. So it's like, okay, store, let's store it.
It's really interesting how our body still holds on to the ancestral things from before. Absolutely. You know, very, very interesting. Also through our families. So yeah, super.
So also, I do tell my patients that, this is great, you know, so one more. So again, some data. For women, around 23%, so basically they say the range of fat mass can be anything between 20 to 30%, depends on different ages. But for Western women, 35 is not considered obese, 35% of body fat. Okay. For Indians, 35 is absolutely obese. So the cut points and the cut ranges are very different.
And why is that?
Again, thanks to our genetic, the cultural and the ethnic background we have.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the range points only are different. So, you know, we all like, oh, let's get into like single digits. But it's not realistic for an Indian woman to kind of really go to that point unless you're going through excessive changes, which I'm not sure if it's going to be really sustainable with an Indian traditional meal. So if I say that, okay, listen, I want to reduce my body fat by the next, let's say by 20%, great. I want to go down to, let's say, 12%. I would never recommend to an Indian woman.
I mean, you'd lose your period. Even like I think anyone else also would lose their period on that. Like whether Indian or not.
Whether Indian or not. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm at 16%.
Right.
And I'm fine with my period and everything. But like I know people who have gone down to 16% and havoc. Absolute madness.
Absolutely.
So again, I guess it's the genetics. Honestly, I find this so interesting. All right, let's talk about the number one problem that I think most Indian women come to people like you and me for.
Yeah.
You know, when I speak to people, normally the conversation is like, okay, what are your goals? Every single time it's the exact same goal, which is I want to lose my belly fat.
Right.
I would love to hear an Indian woman say, I want to live longer and I want to be healthy.
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's my dream.
Yeah.
I've never heard it till now, but it always comes down to the belly fat. And I have been somebody, when I was younger, chasing that goal myself as well.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I gave up because I was like, okay, might be genetics. And yeah, I did blame it a little bit. And eventually, after some time of just not bothering with it anymore and focusing on longevity, I got my abs.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
But this is an obsession. Why do you think it's such a big obsession?
I think because we're really comparing to what people look on screen. So basically, again, it's an obsession because everybody wants to kind of look a specific way. I just loved what you just mentioned that, you know, I would love that if people come back and tell me that, okay, listen, I'm looking at just functional, you know, I'm looking at like better life. I'm looking at great, physical mobility at 50, better bones, better joints. If the goals become these, the entire process will be a little bit more lightened up. Mm-hmm. Imagine if you have such a great, if you have a goal of just reducing your belly fat and you are continuously tracking it, it is stressful. Okay, because I'm sorry, it is also extremely effort oriented.
Yeah. And it changes every time as well in the month, depending on your cycle.
Absolutely. How you slept last night also is going to have an impact on what's going to your numbers look like today.
What did you have a heavy carb meal the night before is going to impact what
did you pass your stool or not? Were you well hydrated? And there are so many factors, and all we're looking at is that machine talking about a number. Not worth it.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, how many push-ups can you do now versus before?
Yeah,
I can do more, but no, my stomach is still the same. Yeah. And it's like, again, we have different places where we lose fat last. Absolutely. And belly is the last. And so I've seen a lot of people just give up. And until people don't start to change their mind about what their why is and go beyond this belly thing, the results are, I feel like they're always going to give up, and then they take a break. They think they don't need to train or they don't need to eat healthy because longevity doesn't matter because nobody's thinking of that. And then they get sick of their body, and then they say, okay, I'm ready to go again, but my goal still is losing my belly fat.
Yeah, I would love to hear. I mean, I think it's changing. But the next hopefully a decade, and I think hopefully people are going to be thinking in this perspective.
What about when people come to you and be like, okay, this is kind of what I want to look like? People do that nowadays with social
they show me
media, and they'll
images.
show you like some Eastern European 20-year-old chick with like who's born with like this amazing figure. I'm talking about my sister. She's obsessed. I'm like, you've had 2 kids, babe.
Absolutely,
You're looking great for a woman with 2 kids.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they come with these images and they're like, this is what I want to look like. And, I straight up tell them that's not realistic. It's not that, I'm not good at what I do, but it's just not realistic. And so they just don't get it. So how do you work around that? Like,
I am absolutely brutally honest as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not for me. I mean, you're coming to the wrong person. I'm not going to help you because I'm sorry, I won't be able to help you. It's against my science. I am here for consistency, lifestyle changes. If that's where you are coming from, great. We're going to make a team. And if not, because I have to be realistic, because I'm sorry if I want to start with a wrong note and with a dishonest note, I think I'm not doing justice to my work.
100%.
So I tell them on their face, this is not me. So the people who are like, oh, meri shaadi hai, in the next 1.5 months, I want to lose 10 kgs in 1.5 months. It's like, oh, I'm not the right person. Yeah. So as simple as that, problem solved. And
find someone else. No, I go with it. I sometimes have like some of my clients are like, I really just these many weeks before I travel, and I'm like, I can give you those results, but I don't want to give you those results because what's the point? It's just all gonna come back. It's not sustainable in the long term, and you're gonna see no benefits. You're gonna be lowered on your energy and all of that. So there's no need for it.
And also, a certain pair, I think also some people require a little bit of education. So if I just kind of tell them, listen, I can really help you. I can give you an extremely crazy diet and you might get your result. But you know what you're going to be losing? You'll be losing a metabolic number. You're going to be losing a lot more muscle than what you think about, even if you're going to be strength training, even if you're going to be having adequate protein, because you are going against your science. You have to understand the body also have... we are all going against trying to lose body weight, trying to lose body fat, because your body is always going to try to protect you. There's something called a set point theory. So it's going to be in a weight range and it's going to be trying to okay, I won't let it go. I won't let it go. So you imagine you're fighting that always. So I tell them that, listen, more than all of this, I promise you're going to be looking way more leaner than what I see you now in the next 1.5 months. But don't look at that 10 kg of a change or let's say 5% of a fat loss, because that's just difficult and not worth the life you have.
That's true. And coming to this, in terms of weight, I mean, I'm still trying to change people's mind, especially Indians, about weight.
Yeah.
So everyone is obsessed with the number on the scale, and I really try to educate people on body composition.
Absolutely.
But I find it's quite hard for people to understand. I know with our age, it comes from our background. I mean, when we were younger, the kind of things everyone, the magazines would say the actress's weight on it.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But this is one big problem that I see, that I can't seem to change people's minds when it comes to stop looking at the weighing scale and look at your body composition and look at your pictures and look at your measurements and look at your clothes. Because I literally have people who've gone 2 dress sizes smaller and then say, my weight is still the same. It's not working.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
It is working. You're just building muscle, and it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So this is something that I face a lot.
So today morning only, I got a patient who had 0 change in body weight. The body fat was down by 1.5%. I have a body composition analyzer in my clinics. And the inches were marvelous. So there was almost an inch loss everywhere. I'm like, but weight, but why? I was like, I look at your numbers, look at your body composition, you've got lesser on your body fat. Your inches, you're looking also, I do feel also much more thinner in my clothes. Or then you've kind of achieved it. Also, you have to understand that the body weight and your inches and your body composition, they are not always directly associated. So they are 3 different charts, progressed charts. So if you've not got your weight right, but you've got your other 2, oh my God, kudos, you did a great job in the last month. So I try to explain them, try to kind of really motivate them back that, okay, it's not always about the weight, it's also about the other 2 progress charts.
Yeah. There's this obsession with being skinny.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of vegetarians that, predominantly they have dairy as their good protein, right? And there is studies that's been shown that about 60 to 65% of Southeast Asians are lactose intolerant. I personally am as well, and I bloat very easily, and milk is a big no for me. So how do we get around that? Because also, other than the belly fat issue, I think everyone's bloated, constantly bloated.
Yes.
So how do we work past that?
Yeah. So you could definitely be lactose intolerant. The idea is to reduce your lactose content. When I say that, Indians also have a very big habit of having that chai and like coffee, specifically chai, and they will not be able to do that without milk. And also most of the Indian households also have tea made up of 100% milk and barely any water. So it's an opposite of what a British tea would look like. So imagine that kind of amount of milk going in your big mug of tea twice a day, and obviously irritating you, you know that, but it's a habit nobody wants to leave. So I always, again, start slow. Okay, your mug of tea can become a teacup. Chai pee rahe ho, you're not having a mug of soup so basically just reduce your size. That's number one. When they start seeing that change, they're going to be like, okay, they're going to like how they feel. They start saying, I feel a little lighter. Oh, great. The next point would be like, okay, how about your 2 cups becomes 1 cup. So that's how we try to kind of really start reducing their amount of milk in a day to help them show what the benefits are without that amount of milk. Also, if you're lactose intolerant, most of them do tolerate dahi. And it's a wonderful thing to have.
I tolerate it, but I bloat.
Yeah, got it. So there are a variety of ways to make it. So they say that if it's a freshly set dahi, when I say that, approximately 4 to 5.5 hours of set dahi is the best dahi you can ask for. Better probiotic, lesser bloating, things like that. And also when you're having your dahi, you can do a little bit of tadka to it with a little bit of hing and some jeera. It again changes how it's going to react to your body. Again, not a big bowl full, like a small katori bharke, and that should be a good amount. So again, it would differ from a person to person. And because if they are vegetarians and if they're not going to be having milk as well as dairy, so they're going to be saying bye-bye to dahi as well, bye-bye to paneer as well, then you have to get all your guards out with all your dals and pulses to make sure that they meet the requirement.
Which is hard.
Which is extremely hard. Yeah, extremely hard. But possible again, but extremely hard.
But what if for the chai they change to like a plant-based milk?
Would be great. But again, when I use almond milk and other substitutes like that, you really can't boil it the way we boil a chai. But it can be, I know a lot of them who can also make that shift. One more element there, I mean, that's my problem. I feel that almond milk here, most of the Tetra packs have just 2% almonds and the rest is all crazy amount of ingredients which are not worth it. So they're not going to be a clean packet. So I feel that more than shifting to an almond milk, if they're okay with that 50 ml of milk which they could possibly be tolerating, I prefer that shift over completely shifting the milk altogether. But that's my practical input to a patient, most of my patients.
And what about dahi versus Greek yogurt?
So they say, so again, it would vary. So a lot of them say that Greek yogurt is way well tolerated as compared to dahi. And if it is, Greek yogurt is it's also a very Indian concept of making that hunkered. Yeah, so it's excellent. And in fact, I doubled my protein in that same amount. So a tablespoon of dahi will have, let's say, X amount of protein. A Greek yogurt, the same tablespoon will have almost 1.5 to 2 times the protein what I had. So, like win-win if you can tolerate Greek yogurt.
I mean, for me, I don't have really yogurt. I do Greek yogurt. I make Indian food sometimes. So my butter chicken, I make with Greek yogurt.
Yeah, it's all possible.
Because in Indian food, we use yogurt in everything, actually. I didn't know that. I just recently learned how to cook Indian food. And I'm like, everything we put yogurt in?
A lot of yogurt.
So I started using Greek yogurt. And honestly, there's a slight difference in the taste, but not that much. It's been great because my protein just jumps up.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And also tolerating well, so you're not feeling the after effects of the bloat and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Also, I think in the Indian diet, from what I know, what I see they cook at home and everything, use a lot of vegetable oil.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on the type of oil? Do you think, I personally, I use olive oil when I cook, but Indian households use vegetable oil and a lot of it.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Which one is better?
So the idea is always to rotate the oils. Like sticking to, let's say, only one groundnut oil for years and years, not the right thing to do. But the idea is to rotate. So when I suggest, the rotation can be between groundnut oil, can be between groundnut, rice bran, mustard, sesame. Do
So
use
seed
olive
oils are
oil.
fine.
No. Here I come. Do use olive oil when a recipe commands it. Do use a little bit of ghee when the recipe commands it. And a combination of all of this would be a better structure in a household as compared to just like sticking to one kind of oil. Because every oil has some ratio of omega-6, omega-3. So if I'm rotating in the way I just mentioned, I have got a better ratio. And I get my omega-3, which is always missing in most of the vegetarian diets. So basically getting that correct is fine. Seed oil is fine, but I would have liked 50% seed oil and 50% can be like, say, an avocado, or olive, or obviously a ghee concept. Again, dairy, but very, and tasty food. So yeah, why not?
It's so interesting. We are intolerant to dairy, but so much of everything we eat has dairy in it.
You won't believe a lot of households only some certain cultural backgrounds, they just use ghee for the cooking, for everything they have. They don't have oil at home at all. It's just ghee, which should be okay if they're using in moderation. So the idea is whatever oil or ghee or olive oil you're using, the moderation. The key is moderation.
Because again, 1 gram of fat is 9 grams of 9 calories.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
So this is another thing I think people don't understand, because my mom was cooking for me and I was like, Mom, do we really need that much oil? And she's like, yeah, how you can taste the food? I'm sure I can taste the food just fine.
Absolutely.
And then when I cook it, I barely put a drop just for the pan and it tastes fine. There's no difference in it. It's just this thing stuck. But it's what I find interesting with the type of food, with the amount of dairy that we have, because if you look at other countries, so India, we are plant-based, where the land, the agriculture and all of that.
Yep.
If you look up in parts of Europe where, let's look at Sweden, for example. They're definitely animal eaters, right? Because they're Vikings, hunting and everything. So their bodies, that's what they're used to. Until now, they eat things like that.
Absolutely.
If you look at Poland, they were poor. They eat a lot of potatoes because that's what they used to grow, and they still can. But how did the dahi and dairy and stuff start here is what I don't tend to understand.
So basically, sadly, even I do not know where was the inception of this. But I think it's no, actually no, I could be wrong here. I do not know the inception.
Oh, what do you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with how it started off with while you are kind of lactating. So I think it starts from that age as well. So kids do not. I mean, we say that if you want to have a stronger child, you should give them milk. You should give them milk. You should give them milk. But obviously, I think they do not require. And why most of people actually give milk, because it gives a very heavy satiety. So a glass of milk is going to shut your mouth for the next 2 hours because it has a crazy amount of satiety. So I think it started off with a ritual of giving milk as an evening snack, a bedtime, etc. But I just feel that it's a little bit to do with the cultural, it is an ongoing process. Sadly, again, I can't really come back and think that what could be the inception for it.
I mean, cows are holy.
Yeah.
Because of milk. Maybe that's where it comes from, now that I think about it, actually. Yeah, it's so interesting. It just doesn't suit us, and still we do it.
Yeah, still we do it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And also still we do it, and also, I don't know, not very open to kind of changing it.
No, but this is the mindset with Indians, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very hard to change mindsets about things.
Talking about mindsets, like, imagine, so there's a lot to do with gluten as well. There's such a, like a big talk about gluten. So basically, tolerant or intolerant, they say that, okay, मैंने wheat का roti नहीं खाया, but I had jawar का roti. Okay. Jawar is another millet. Okay. So basically, I had a millet roti. Okay. Yeah, great. That's a good shift. But again, you're doing a good shift, but you are kind of sticking still around carbohydrates. So they do not know that if you've not done wheat, if you've done any other millet, you're having the same amount of carbohydrates as well. So the idea is, not just substitution. For Indian traditional meals, the idea is to kind of add a few things and subtract a few carbohydrates, and your entire plate gets a little better.
I mean, I have told some of my clients to make chickpea
Yeah.
rotis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
you
Yeah.
should get some.
Sattu roti,
What's
chickpeas
sattu?
roti. Sattu is basically.
Sorry, I don't know the Hindi
yeah,
words.
sorry, my bad. It's basically the roasted chana.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's kind of processed in a manner to give you a sattu.
Okay.
It's wonderful. It's fairly light as well, and it's again basically a brother of chickpea. Let's put it this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming to the other aspect of the Indian diet, vegetarian, let's look at Jains.
Yeah.
See, I have come across a few and I did not take them as clients because it's a big, I have no idea, really, I'll be honest. I'm not going to say sure,
Yeah,
I'll help you. And I don't know. I have no clue. So how do they get their protein?
Yeah. So basically, they would, so Jains primarily would not have onion, garlic, and potato. Okay. They would also, on most of the days, they do not have a lot of vegetables as well. When I say that, a stricter Jain will not even have carrots, will not even have cauliflower, broccoli, beetroot.
So your fiber
So
is just flying.
yeah, because where will I get the fiber from? And they're not going to be having, so example, if I want, some kind of, they just have cucumber, tomatoes, French, they have very few options for me to help them choose. So it gets very difficult with Jains. But again, they have a lot of these days where they include a lot of protein in the form of dals and pulses.
So the
They have,
carbohydrates.
so thankfully those days really help. But more than the protein aspect, I feel the fiber aspect goes for a toss because they're saying bye-bye to a lot of vegetables, lots of roots and tubers.
So do they suffer with a lot of bloating?
A lot of bloating. In fact, when they have those specific days when they're just doing certain kind of grains and pulses, no vegetables sometimes, no vegetables, zero in a day. There would be a lot of gas.
Then their
bloating,
glucose would just be off the charts, right? With no fiber.
Yeah. That's why a lot of, so Jains or also Marwaris in general, they will have a lot of triglycerides specifically. So in the lipid profile chart, there is something called as triglycerides, one of the parameters. It's high only because of this entire carbohydrate content of your day.
And lack of fiber.
And a lack of fiber. Yeah. So very, very common in a population like that.
Can they get the results that they're looking for?
Again, be very welcome and have a big attitude to change your plate. But then if I say so, let me just go back and talk. It's a breakfast item, In breakfast item in India is all about upma, poha, sevaiya, dhokla.
Yeah,
thepla, paratha.
lots of aroma.
Yes. So it's a lot of, again, everything is carb rich, everything. And unless you kind of probe and say that, okay, listen, how about you kind of do maybe let's say a paratha with some paneer in it. Do a stuffed paratha, not a plain paratha. If you're doing a poha, add some boiled sprouts to it. So unless you make these changes, you are doing absolutely carb rich breakfast. Followed by lunch, which is also probably going to be carb rich, and also the snacks, sev puri, bhel puri, all of those, again, extremely carbohydrate rich. So you will be shocked that sometimes people don't even meet 5% of the protein requirement in a day.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So then here we come let's get in the hunkered. Let's get in the, the chickpea hummus maybe. Let's get in some wraps which has some paneer to it, some cottage cheese to it. So you have to do that at every meal to make sure that they really up that protein. So can be done, but intentionally you have to make sure that the recipes all include around pulses and the dairy if they're okay.
Okay, so like in a case like this, and somebody in this case who comes to you they want to lose weight, they want to lose body fat, but they also want to start building muscle.
Oh yeah.
That's hard.
It's very hard.
Because if you're not eating a complete amino acid, you are a complete protein, you can go lift weights, but you're actually destroying your muscle rather than building it, right?
Absolutely. Recovery is going to be a problem. Absolutely, yes. So, So I really feel that, I think these scenarios, we need to take some help of a supplement.
Are they open to it?
So most of them are. And if you kind of educate them, they will be okay. I kind of start off by saying that, okay, I'm taking the same. So So basically, the idea is, you also understand that they're not very open towards a big quantity. So one scoop will take me 1 month to reach that quantity. I start with 1 tablespoon.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have to go really slow because also they might have issues with the digestive system in the initial stage.
But then, okay, so we're looking at whey protein and then you're looking at plant-based protein, right?
Yeah.
But again, plant-based proteins are not usually the whole rounded thing as well, right?
Yeah.
And even with the plant-based, they will react to it?
Most of them do not react with the plant-based as compared to a whey.
But then they won't take whey, right? If they're Jain or vegetarian.
Yeah.
Or do the
So
vegetarians
vegetarians and Jains do take whey as well. But most of them kind of complain with a little bit of digestive issues, absolutely. Acne maybe. So therefore, the plant-based proteins are getting much more, basic, I would say, familiar now.
Okay.
Also, most of the good companies have a blend in those plant proteins, which is a supplemental protein, which kind of really matches up with their PDCAS as compared to it kind of comes closer to a complete protein source as well.
Okay.
Certain companies. So those are the best recommendations. But again, you have to start really slow with them.
Yeah.
But and most of them, they want to gain a muscle, but they don't have a very big appetite. So it's very difficult. I can't tell them, acha, have 4 sattu ka roti or have 4 chickpea rotis. They're like, oh, I can't eat so much food.
Yeah.
So the idea is that they basically need to kind of, again, be open to our enormous quantity of meal, which is going to be more protein and fiber rich.
Yeah.
And only then will they be able to kind of gain what they want to. Also, the bigger, I think, hindrance is strength training in India. Most of them don't do it. Most of them don't do it, meaning they're not very open towards the idea. They're like, oh, I'm doing my physical activity, I'm going for my walk and my yoga. But if you want to really build muscle, you need to contract that muscle. So your contraction is important of the muscle. So, adding strength training, if I try to, if I educate that and if I am kind of getting into a 45-year-old who's doing strength training and I'm telling her, okay, do that 3 times in a week, I feel like, wow, I did such a great thing to her,
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah. So basically, more than the protein, to also help them educate about strength training is also essential, even if they want to talk about muscle composition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think another mentality here that's there when it comes to taking protein. So this was an actual thing that happened with a client of mine in India. She trained with me online. She had gone to the gym. After she finished her workout, she was drinking her protein shake. A trainer at the gym approached her and said, "Madam, aapko protein shake nahi peena chahiye, aap ladki ho." A trainer said that. And when she's told me that, I really was wondering, how backward is it? And then, then I speak to other people and say, I don't want to take protein shakes because it's going to make me bulky. And I'm like, look at it. You're getting 25, whey protein, 26 grams from 1 scoop of protein.
Yeah.
And if you take 150 grams of chicken breast, it is the exact same amount of protein, right? So will you say, I'm not going to eat chicken breast because I'm going to get bulky? It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
But they still have the mentality of it's only for bodybuilders.
That's right. That's right.
And that I find very hard to break.
Yeah, it is very hard to break. But as you just said, if you just, again, help them understand that, I love your chicken breast in the example. So if you just tell them, okay, this is what it is, and you're getting a concentrate source, and it's finishing in a drink, so it's so convenient. So if you kind of just explain them better, I think they will be open to that idea. One more thing, I feel that if not about the bulky part, also they feel like rest days, there is no protein requirement. I did not work out today. That's the concept I would love to change. In fact, the rest days you require protein, so you recover better.
Yeah.
And it's like you slept yesterday, I'm not sleeping today. Is that possible? No, right? So you require protein every single day. In fact, every single meal.
Yeah, because some people tell me, oh yeah, I didn't train today, so no protein. I was like, yep, no, you have to take it because our bodies need a minimum of 100 grams of protein just to maintain and function.
Yeah.
And this is another thing people don't understand, that protein is not just to build your muscle. It has so many more functions in your body that you need to actually survive and to live a healthy life.
Absolutely.
It's not just, I want to get muscle and I want to lose fat. There's so much more to it than that. So, I think it just takes time to just educate people more and more on it.
Also, I think the side impacts of increasing the protein is also very lot to do with digestion as well. So that's why I think people really fear protein. When I say that, if you're having enough protein, but if you're not having enough water / fluids, it's going to really upset you. So you got to really kind of increase your fluid intake. Number 2, if you're having adequate protein, but if you're not having adequate fiber, I'm sorry, you are going to be prone to probably, let's say, constipation, a lot of bloating, etc. So combining, just increasing protein for the sake of result, but not looking at the other nutrients is going to really not make you feel as you would like to. And I think that's why people are a little bit, so that's why the entire blame game goes on protein.
Yeah.
So
Also,
yeah,
like-
so just like making sure that you do the others also, like you keeping them in sync is very important.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like a few things. If you check it off the list and you do it consistently,
Yeah.
you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the results
Yeah.
that you want. And there's also this fear people have with kidneys, and they say that from if I take a protein shake, my kidneys, and I'm like, well, if you don't have any health issues, you're gonna be fine. It's
gonna be
like,
fine.
again, it's like eating meat or chicken.
Yeah.
If you overdo it,
Absolutely.
if you drink too much water, you can actually drown in your own body. There was a case like that, I think, many years ago. Yeah, like long time ago. But there was a case where somebody drowned in their own body from too much water.
So I always say them consistency is going to taste way better as compared to, quick fixes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to be consistent. You got to kind of meet it every single day if you're looking at the result you're supposed to. And also, I always tell them and go back that why are you beginning? Like, I mean, you always have a goal associated. And you always have to remember that goal. So if you remember that goal, you will hopefully be motivated to do it consistently. And you have to also explain that, a little bit of break. Like you cannot be 100% perfect. Like, please be okay. So they feel like, okay, one cheat meal has ruined my entire month. It's one cheat meal.
It's a mindset, all or nothing mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just like 2% of the entire month. It did nothing to you. You had a great time, move on. So basically that attitude also has to change because they feel that, if I did this wrong, it's not going to help me at all.
Also the concept of, I overate, I'll burn it tomorrow. Your body's not going to burn that tomorrow, sweetheart. It's not going to happen.
I was like, okay, 20 minutes of a jog is going to like burn this much. Can you see my size? This much of chocolate. I'm sorry, you're not at all even going closer to what you're eating. And activity has to be a soul happy time. It doesn't
not
have to be
punishment.
related. Yes, absolutely. There should not be any relationship with food with that.
Yeah, but coming to activity though, I mean, I think another issue here is like, I mean, when I work with my clients, if they're living in places like Europe and stuff, it's like, okay, they're going to get their activity, their daily activity. That's not just the workout, right?
Yeah.
Because workout is 5% of everything, maybe less even.
Yeah.
So here in India,
Yeah,
people don't get any other activity in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steps, it's hard. Where do you get your steps? Everyone lives in apartments.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't just go out for a walk.
Absolutely.
The weather in some places, not even the weather, I think it's the pollution, doesn't even allow you to go out for runs.
Absolutely.
So how do you suggest for people in India to increase their daily activity? Because it is hard.
Yeah. So I tell them the most, the traditional ways of like, I'm sorry, you'll have to probably take your stairs. Don't take an elevator as often as you can. If you are good, because most of them have a sitting desk job as well. So example, if it's like a 8-hour job, go to the washroom 3 times at least in the entire those 8 hours. Go and get your water. You've got to take those breaks from your table or your desk. Only then will you get some amount of steps. But you, again, because your daily number of counts is way more important as compared to that just 1 hour in the gym. Yeah,
exactly.
But then also as simple as, I don't know, go get your own food. Do your things on your own. If you're like watching television for like an hour every night, probably stand up and just like walk.
Everyone has help. So it's like,
absolutely.
ye lekar aao, and they don't get up themselves.
Extremely sedentary. Some people don't even get 1,000 steps a day. Imagine how little is that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's tough. But I guess it has to be intentional.
It has to be extremely intentional.
It has to be very,
How badly you want is what they have to know. So you really need to get your goal. Like you have to really focus on the goal. You've got to have it really badly to make those changes. And you've got to be a new person. So they say that, I'll do it all for next 6 months and then I'm done. I'm sorry. You're going to be back to where you were.
Yeah.
I don't have a magic wand in my hand. No, I'm not doing any magic around you.
Yeah.
You are doing the effort, but you got to be consistent at it.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you've got to be really intentional and you've got to be, hopefully, in those 6 months when you've made that change, you'll be a different new. You'll be a new you.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. Your mindset would change. You're going to love how you feel and probably you'll continue. And that's the idea.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times, in general, not just people here, but they'll do something for 3-4 months, and then they'll say, "This is okay. I got where I want to," and then that's it. And it's like it's really not. You do have to continue for the rest of your life. Actually.
Rest of the life, absolutely,
yeah.
I don't scare them in the first meet. I don't tell them rest of the life. They're like, oh my God, so much. But then, the answer is rest of the life. Yeah. And why stop? The benefits are beautiful. How energetic you're going to feel. You're going to sleep better.
Yeah.
You're going to think think correctly. There's so many things to it.
I mean, for me, just the introduction into fitness and understanding nutrition and everything, my whole life changed. I ended up making a career out of it when it was just something I was actually forced into it.
Oh.
I was a party animal. I used to, I was skinny fat.
Right.
Like I didn't know I was like, what you said, what did you say?
Yeah.
Thin on the outside, fat on the inside.
That's
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
And then my best friend just like dragged me one day and said, I don't like your life. You're going to regret this when you get older. Come to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And forced me into it. And I just started feeling better and I want to change my whole life.
Absolutely.
And it was one of the best things that happened.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
My personal story, I was at some point 80 kgs.
Oh, wow.
So my growing years, adolescence and also further on, also while I was doing my master's, I was as good as 80 kgs. I've lost some weight during that time. So when I say that, I'm talking about the 22, when I was 22 years old. Lost some weight, went down to 60 at some point, went back to 80. So I've had a beautiful yo-yo in my life as well. And then once I've lost the weight, I've kind of really maintained this. But I know what the original and the old Zankruti was and what I am now. And I am swearing I do not want to go back because I just love the new. But it becomes so, now it's so like easy for me. I don't have to stress about anything because it becomes a unconscious choice. So not having that extra piece of chocolate is not stressful for me. It's very easy now for me. But now, the old Zankriti, the 80 kg Zankruti knows what to have a 1 kg of cake in like 5 minutes. Yeah. So I absolutely, I know where we all come from and what the process is. It's hard, but oh my God, it's beautiful at the end.
Yeah.
Just wait until the end.
That's true. That's true. I want to circle back a little bit to when we talked about quick fixes.
Yeah.
New trend everywhere, Ozempic.
Yeah.
Manjaro. You knew I was going to touch on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are not honest about it. That is given. Okay, no shade there.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's fine.
But I want to talk about the issue that comes with these medications, and it is that the first, I mean, everyone wants a quick fix. I want to get thin. I want to get thin because of the obsession with thin. Yeah. Again, the education on the importance of muscle mass for your bones and stuff is not fully there yet, right? And this is why it's so easy for people to make that decision when we still don't know the long-term effects of these drugs. However, we do know that the first thing it does is feed into your muscles.
Absolutely.
So here in India, people who are Jain, people who are vegetarian, and they're going, and let's be honest, most of the obese people are in that genre because of the carbohydrates that they have. Whereas if you look at non-veg eaters, they're not as obese or as fat as people who are vegetarian. You know, options are pizza, pasta, things like that. So a lot of these people end up taking these medicines. Now, they already have a very small amount of muscle mass, and now they're just killing all their muscle mass. What are your thoughts on it?
So first of all, taking the pill, unless you've made any effort in the past, you've not tried anything in the past, and all you want to do a quick fix, the start point only is absolutely incorrect. But even if you are, and because obviously there's going to have an impact on your appetite as well. That's what the drug does, yeah? So
they inject them, no?
Yeah. So you either can take a pill or you can inject them.
I thought it was just injections.
So, but and imagine that little bit amount of appetite you have, no one's going to choose protein. You know, so imagine you're not even choosing the right amount of food and that little appetite you have. And if you're not also muscle training, oh my God, the loss will be there because that's what the drug does. But it's going to be there will be both fat as well as muscle loss, but the muscle loss will be so high. And then once you've kind of stopped the pill, because you had so much muscle loss, I'm sorry, the weight will come creeping back because you lost that muscle. And the muscle is a fat, in fact, the mass, which basically helps you burn fat and kind of keeps your metabolism on the rise. So, you did something for a while, you lost all the muscle if you've not been, so basically when I say that if you're on the drug, if you have to be, because imagine the doctor is also prescribed.
But now you don't have to be.
Yeah, okay. So if you don't...
Then we'll come to have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is if you don't have to be on that drug, the idea is that make sure if you don't have to be on the drug, don't get it, please. Try the natural way. It is a little bit more difficult.
Slower
for sure. Lots of time, lots of choices to make, etc. But it will happen. But if you're going to be taking your drug, imagine you're welcoming nausea, you're welcoming digestive trouble, you're welcoming a lot of muscle loss, which I'm sorry, takes years to build again.
I know. And I think a lot of people now that are actually who have access to these drugs are people who you pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So you think, I mean, I work with predominantly women. You're looking at, women the ages 35 and above.
Yeah.
Now already once we cross 30s,
Right.
sarcopenia happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
you already are losing muscle by just sitting down and doing nothing.
Absolutely.
It's already going to be so hard to build it. So once you get off the drug,
Yeah.
you've already lost bone density.
Yeah.
You've lost all the muscle. It's not going to be easy. And again, we don't know the long-term effects of these things.
Absolutely.
So if somebody has to take it now for medical reasons, right? Fair enough, you have to take it. Great.
Yeah.
How should they go about it?
So if they have to take it for the medical reasons and it's been prescribed by a doc, then the idea is to make sure that you're adequately doing your protein. You can't, I'm sorry, it's a non-negotiable factor. You got to get your protein in and you got to get your strength training at least 3 to 4 times in a week. It can be very light. It can be as per your intensity, but I really would like that we progress on that muscular intensity workouts. So getting these 2 things are the most important. So the drug has, I think, just 2 more additional guidelines. Get your protein, get your muscular strength training in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is normally what I do, but most of the people that I know who or think they are on it or know of on it are usually just taking it because they just want a quick fix.
That's all right.
And they choose it's this or that.
Yeah.
It's not, I know I have to do both. It's like, okay, I will do this or I will do that because I'm not going to spend my money on one thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so they still don't know the long-term effects. And you said it's a fad. It's a fad, but I think it's a more dangerous fad because when people go and do these silly detox diets or keto or carnivore or intermittent fasting, those are fads that they do disrupt, as for women, not for men, for women, they do disrupt our hormones.
Yeah.
All these weird diets, fad diets, disrupt our hormones.
Absolutely.
While it takes a long time to, bring everything back in check, you still have hormone replacement where you can try to kind of do things. But with these injections, I think it's not easy to kind of come back to baseline.
Yeah.
So I think it's more dangerous than just a fad.
Absolutely. You said that so correctly. Also, not before, we still have them. Bariatric surgeries was also very, people were using, it's not as easy, right? Because you're going to be going under your knife. But I know a lot of people who did not need it would kind of really opt for that option. So I think this has become so easy, right? So it's injectable. It's just like popping something.
Yeah.
And and it's obviously money, but for some population, that's not even a concern. So imagine it became so easier. It became something which you can just buy so easily.
You can buy it online. Drops of home. I mean, personally for me, I think people who take this, they want to look good, in their outfits. For me, I want to look good naked when I look at myself in the mirror. So if I'm going to take an injection that's going to make me lose all my muscle, I'm going to be soft and fluffy. I'm going to like myself naked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care about what I look like with the clothes on.
Absolutely. Yes.
I half the time dress in baggy clothes. It's no difference, Yeah. So and I think this also comes down to the perspective of what people, society, and the way people want to be seen by other people rather than on themselves.
Yeah.
Now let's come into carbohydrates. People are scared of carbs.
Yeah.
Carbs is the enemy. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. First of all, carbs are very tasty. Okay, everybody loves a slice of bread. Everybody likes a little bit of rice to it. It's definitely tasty, but the problem is not carbohydrates. The problem it's lonely alone. So the idea is to kind of add protein and fiber, and then you've done a great job. Then it doesn't become the enemy. Let me explain. What happens is metabolically, Asians, also Indians, they kind of react to carbohydrate a little bit more differently. What happens is whenever you eat something, it could be anything. It could be a fruit, it could be a roti, it could be an upma. Whenever you eat something, it gets broken down into something called as glucose. It's a type of sugar. Now, this glucose has to be absorbed by your cells to give you energy to do all what it's supposed to, which is great. But imagine your cells are some rooms, okay? And your glucose is a guest which needs to enter the room. That's the ideal, situation. And there's a key to it. You can't just enter the room. The guest just can't enter the room. There's a key to it. And the key is insulin. Now, that hormone is really important. Now, what happens is in Asians per se, the key gets a little jammed. Okay, so they get a little resistant for the guest, which is the glucose, to be able to enter the room. So the guest is not being able to enter the room. There's a lot of glucose lying outside. So the body is going to try to fix it. Okay, why is it not entering the room? So let me just build more insulin. Let me just build more keys. In that way, you are kind of really asking your pancreas to kind of really, manufacture more insulin. And thereby, you are kind of predisposing to something called as insulin resistance / pre or pre-diabetes. Asians, they say that they are pre-diabetic / diabetic at a way younger age because they respond to carbohydrates a little bit different as compared to our Western population. So imagine that the way you are responding to a carbohydrate is very different than what a Westerner is. And therefore, and also you're not changing your quantity of carbohydrates, your quality of carbohydrates, you're making it worse. So the idea is that carbohydrates play a very, very good role, but if you're not really adding adequate fiber, adding adequate protein, complete protein to it, adding some kind of fat to kind of, reduce the spike, then you've just, had something which was not really beneficial because you've really come from a stage already which is like the cells not handling it well. So we have to make sure that any carbohydrate. So what I tell them for also, let's say, roti sabzi, imagine that's their lunch, okay? If I add like a big bowl of salad, it can be very basic salad. It doesn't have to be at all fancy. So I'm not here adding some quinoa and stuff like that. It can be simple, like gajar, ek kakdi, ek tomato. But yeah, a good volume. If I add the salad half an hour prior to a lunch meal, I already made a better difference in how your carbohydrates in the roti is going to be responding. Yeah. So carbohydrates are, I would say, not an enemy, but what type you're eating, the amount you're eating at one time, that's the problem. And I think I go back to what I said, that they're really lonely. The rotis is really boring alone. But if you kind of really add a little bit of your thoda sa raita, thoda sa, your pulses, your dals, your rajma, good amount of sabzi, oh my God, you did a fantastic job.
That's really interesting, actually, because, this is the same concept, which is what happens with women who have PCOS, right?
Oh, yes.
With the insulin resistance.
Yes.
And then the body just starts to build up cortisol when that's happening.
Absolutely.
And then you're just fighting this whole thing, and then that's where you store the belly fat.
Yep.
I did not know that it was just in general in our Asian bodies as well. So that's a really interesting thing. But what I do, and I also make my clients do, is before every meal, you have your meal plated out. First, you eat your fiber, your salad.
Perfect.
After that, you eat your protein. Then I tell them to eat the fats and then have the carb.
That's perfect.
So when I'm cooking, I'll open my fridge, I have a bag of salad. I eat the salad just raw, just put it in my mouth like lettuce, spinach, roca, whatever. And then I'll have my meal. And I realize that at the end of the day, I'm not snacking. Whereas if I skip that part, and I do this for every single meal.
That's perfect.
If I skip it, I start to want sugar.
Absolutely. Want sugar, craving wants something else, etc. So perfect hierarchy to kind of manage it all and also get in all your nutrients correctly. Also, I do feel that, I think Indians, one of the hindering factors is they like a lot of variety. So, if you want to be, opting at a goal, let's put it you have to be a little bit boring, I feel. So imagine they want like 15 different options for breakfast. So, which is fine, great. You have a big palate, I get it.
You're not cooking for them, so it's fine.
Okay. So, but the more variety you're kind of really getting into, you are going to miss out 1 or 2 macros in it. So the idea is that you have to be a little bit okay around the fact that, okay, you know what, I'm going to have this AP recipe, let's say 2 to 3 times in a week for sure. Yeah. So that's also very important for them to kind of derive, because you got that very nice in one plate. Why change it? Yeah. So I think a little bit of the entire concept of vast variety can be limited to just a few happy recipes. And if you kind of just derive that, the outcomes are much more happier.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm a person of habit. My breakfast has to be the same every single day. I just cook my eggs a different way each day.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I change the fat. Some days I'll have avocado, some days I'll have cheese. It just changes. But it's the exact same breakfast every single day. But it feels different.
It feels different.
Same ingredients.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. And now most of my clients do that too. I think with dinner, it gets a little bit more tricky for most people, because in dinner you do want something a little bit more interesting. You may be able to rotate your breakfast and lunch because you're on a routine already. You wake up at the same time, you're at work or whatever your routine is. dinner is when I think it gets more tricky for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the best time, I think, to really focus on also how your plate is going, because if you're eating at home.
So yeah, that's right. Also, they say that a plate usually should have 60% should be vegetables, 20% should be protein, and 20% should be, let's say, cereal or grains or some form of carbohydrates. If you're doing this correct, then I think you've got this. So so a lot of my consults would be like a lot of nutritionists usually, more than just giving them a menu or a recipe, if you kind of just explain this plate part a little bit better, they can absolutely work in their own household, because some of them have like a big group of people staying together. So it won't just be 2 of them or just a solo.
That's another thing,
10
actually.
people. Yeah.
And they don't cook their own food.
They don't cook their own food.
And they don't know what's in the food.
Yes.
Especially when they're living with in-laws and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's going to be impossible for them to kind of also change a lot of factors around it. So if I say इसमें थोड़ा सा तेल कम डालो, the entire sabzi सबकी बनती है. So it's very difficult for them to kind of really also monitor that very closely.
The plating works well for them.
Absolutely. So they can really so example, if you're having, let's say, a pizza back at home. Okay, so only ask is that example, if it's a pizza, let's say some arrabbiata sauce, just tell them that, okay, the same sauce and you have some vegetables chopped for your pizza, right? Just kind of, how about you saute them on the side and you have like a bowl full of that arrabbiata vegetable, and then you have your pizza. You did a better job. And those 4 slices of pizza can become 3. Great. So you have to kind of explain them a little bit there, and probably in that arrabbiata, if you want to add a little bit of cheese, great, please do that. So, so if you just help them navigate it a little better, it's a little bit more easier for her to be consistent, therefore, her or him, whoever.
Yeah, I mean, in this sense, actually, I've had some people who, well, actually, these were just like discovery calls with people, and it was this one lady. She was living with her in-laws. She ate chicken, she ate eggs, but couldn't eat it at home.
Oh yeah, I know. There are a lot of these. Yeah.
And
it's a big shift.
It was very, very hard then for her to, she's like, I know what I need to do, but I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to say to you, to be honest. Yeah, that's
Also,
quite sad.
She didn't meet a protein, that's one aspect, but imagine she didn't meet her palate because she's used to that palate. So it's very difficult for her to kind of shift it to a,
and then she's gaining weight, poor thing. Then you feel so bad because it's not a choice that she's made, you know?
Yes, very much. So I think a lot of, also, I believe that Indians also have a lot to do with, they're very happy around food, which is the way it's supposed to be. But also, therefore, taking away their favorite ingredients, I think it's the worst thing to do. And as a consultant, I would never do that. So, example, if people love their rice, oh, great, get their rice in. But they do not want to shift to a red rice or a quinoa. That's all fine. But I think that I can just make the rice more interesting for you, and you did a good job. So, I feel having your happy ingredients is important. The happier day. And why leave that?
No, it's important. Yeah, so when people say, I'm eating clean, I'm cutting out this. Why do you want to cut it out? And eating clean doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yes,
because it comes down to calories.
Yeah. So people say almonds, everybody knows this is great, right? So approximately 10 to 12, depending on the size of the almonds, is approximately 10 to 12 almonds is almost 100 kilocalories.
Everyone eats almonds like a...
Thank you. They're snacking on it.
I don't get it.
I didn't eat something at bedtime because I was like, I'm not going to eat anything, but I just had like a box of almonds. I did something so healthy. But oh my God, your calorie went off. The chart is off. Yeah.
But this is also another very Indian thing to do. When I was going to school, my mom was giving me badams all the time for your brain, for your brain, and it just becomes this habit that we continue on.
Absolutely.
And these are little traditional things.
Also, munching, I think it's a very, it's predominantly seen. So, example, if someone's making something or kuch taste kar liya, or my mom was having something, it's my favorite purana zamane ka some recipe, I'm going to taste that as well. So they're continuously munching, and that's also going to have an impact on the calories, obviously.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I always tell people is like, when we want to start, we start in your kitchen. Let's look at your pantry. Let's get rid of the things that you don't need them. They're your emotional support. Keep a little bit. Don't keep too many,
Yeah.
But then again, we have the problem of people living with in-laws, people living with their kids.
Yeah.
They're not able to just, I can't keep these things at home.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. So that's quite hard.
Yeah.
Like I've given that advice before, but then I realized I should probably stop. I live alone. I can do that. I cannot do that.
Absolutely.
No, it's not possible.
Some of them have the dinner tables filled with a lot of there are a few families which have dinner tables laid, and the middle section of the dinner tables has at least 6 types of nuts, 6 types of some kind of namkeen snack on the dinner table throughout the day. So imagine your access.
go.
Yeah.
But I've also found that some of my clients who do say, you know what, I will do that, they find that then their husband join in on eating well. The kids also start to eat well. So I don't think it's anything wrong with that. I think it is possible to
Oh, yes, it is.
clean up your pantry and let the whole family follow. Why do you want to give your kids shit so that when they grow up, they're also crying like you and saying, my belly, my belly, my belly? Let them start from a young age.
So, a lot of them come as actually either couples or a full family that, we want 4 of us. I want my 2 kids and I want both of us also to kind of change. It becomes so easy. And obviously they kind of request that we have to have a similar pattern. I was like, obviously, yes, I get that. But it's so easy if there is going to be like a group of the family doing things together. If not the entire meal, obviously at least a few parts of it, and success. So
yeah, it's very important to have people supporting you around. And I think it's important for parents to put that on their kids as well, like in a positive way. Of course, you don't want to give them trauma from these things, but in a positive way. Because I think a lot of us growing up, I mean, at least not me, but I know a lot of people growing up, like, their parents always like, you've had too much to eat, you have had, so they're traumatized from a young age.
Absolutely.
So it's more about letting your kids understand that this is a healthy lifestyle and to continue it where you can. When you're living with in-laws, I don't know how you can manage that, but otherwise you can.
Yeah.
All right, so before we wrap this up, I've got a few more questions to ask you that will hopefully give our audience something to think about. So what is one thing that Indian women can start doing right now to start taking a step closer to losing that belly fat?
Strength training. Without, quick, like I can give this a multi-second answer.
Multi-second, rapid fire.
Strength training completely. And so I'm not expecting 4 or 5 times in a week at all. I'm expecting anything between 2 to 3 times in a week. Start light, but strength training until you die.
And I'd just like to add in, if you start strength training and you are doing, you're starting with your 2 or 3 kilos, you cannot stick to that. You have to increase with time because progression is how you're going to see the results.
That's perfect.
So strength training does not mean 20 reps of a movement. It means let it be a bit hard for you.
Yeah.
All right. And what is one thing that you feel like they should be thinking of in terms of their mindset, and what should they be changing? The most common thing you have, common scenarios.
I feel a lot of them are basically emotional eaters. So when I say that, there's a lot of emotional identity around food, around body image, etc. So kind of they loosen up there. And they kind of look at other gains of eating correct, eating clean, eating more nutrient-dense food, then I think it's a win-win situation. So, And also when you obviously could be stressed and you probably want to get a bar of chocolate. I get that. The only ask is that whenever you have that feeling, just pause. Talk to yourself that, okay, listen, I'm feeling really blah about the day. I want that chocolate. I think I deserve it. What a day. Change the story of not being a victim and just kind of really pacify yourself. Just talk for literally 2 minutes is what I'm asking. You might go back and have the bar of chocolate.
And that's fine. Yep.
But you change that 2 minutes of that pause, a little bit of that self-talk and not playing the victim card will make a change eventually. So wait for it and go on practice this all over again.
No, that works 100%. That always works. Yeah, definitely. And also, should we give them a little reminder about belly fat and just explain why they should get over it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So we are different. You have to understand we are Indians, Asians, we are different. Stop comparing. Everyone's different. If you do not look, so belly fat, wanting to have a change there, it's also healthy. I get that. You want to have a change in visceral fat, which is good. But looking beyond other progress units, like how good you slept, how energized you're feeling during the day, how your gut is feeling nice, how you're eating and thinking clean. So if you just look at these progress units and taking a little step behind your belly fat, you never know, there will still be a change, but you kind of really, you reduce the stress over it. And you will get your outcome. It might be after 6 to 8 months, maybe.
Maybe more.
But, maybe more, absolutely. But it's not the end of the world. So that's not going to define you. So stop stressing on it.
Yeah. I also feel like when people stress so much about their bellies, they're also rising their cortisol.
Yeah.
So you're actually just making the whole situation worse. Just quickly, last thing actually I just thought of. Indian body. What is the definition of an Indian body as a woman? Men, we know that it's all, you don't have to really describe it, but an Indian woman body, because it's belly and it's also hips.
It's also hips.
It's also hips.
Yeah. So it's also, so it's belly, it's hips, it's also certain times of, also a few of them have bigger biceps, also bigger breast maybe. So you have, again, stop comparing. Moreover, if you have, let me get this right, if you, most of them would have probably bigger hips, that also means, but it's not usually visceral fat. So at least you're safer. So you have to kind of really think that, okay, even if I have a bigger hip, at least I am safer as compared to anybody who's got a higher belly fat.
In terms of health.
In terms of health. But kind of being really comfortable in your body. So you know what, you want to change. You want to have a specific physical outcome. But first of all, start loving of how you feel right now and whatever manner and shape you are right now. Very important to kind of really make a lifestyle change then. So
Yeah. Super important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
My
Anki.
pleasure. Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot. But yeah, I'm glad that when I did use the excuse of genetics, it actually was. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching this week's episode of It's Pretty Simple. This is Zanki. I will be putting her information down in the show notes. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Zanki and to me. If you're not following the podcast, please make sure to hit subscribe and follow. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thank you.